Let's talk about IKEA Kitchens for a minute, since most joiners and fitters I speak to hate IKEA Kitchens. We'll get to those complaints in a minute, but meantime, for this kitchen install I decided to go for an IKEA kitchen, since they were the only low to mid price range suppliers I could find that had some sort of ash veneer panels in their range, as I was using ash timber elsewhere in this project. So here's my reasons to go for IKEA, and then I'll give you reasons your experienced joiner might give you to avoid them, and why I sometimes avoid them too. Out of the usual suspects, you will find they are one of the cheapest manufacturers. Actually, for the quality of some of the fittings, I'd say they are probably the best value for money, but that is only if you are installing the units yourself. If not, you need to take account of the additional time and thus expense of assembling the stuff, and that time is not insignificant. Now, I like IKEA's transparency of pricing. There is nothing stopping you designing and building the whole thing using their kitchen designer software. Or if you're like me, sometimes I'll use SketchUp to do the same thing, create the components and then lay them out. Because they publish all the details you need, such as exact size and thickness of carcasses, cabinets, lists of ironmongery and even appliances, I can get a very accurate estimate of price just by navigating their excellent website. I've made a separate video of their free and pretty effective online kitchen planner. It's great for getting an accurate price with all the extras which you always forget about. And that's not possible with most of the other suppliers, where you need to work through their kitchen salespeople, and for good reason. They want to get you into their showrooms and help you into buying stuff, any stuff, but preferably more stuff than you thought you needed. I got to say, I like IKEA's styling. It's simple and understated with loads of bells and whistles. When I am designing, I try and limit my palette of materials, especially timber species, to keep a language and consistency throughout the whole house, hence by looking for an ash veneer to match some of the furniture I was planning. I like to think of the whole house as a single space, like a flowing experience rather than the Victorian way of opening doors and going from room to room. And you're getting towards my way of thinking. So IKEA felt like a good option in this case from a design standpoint. If you can get to an IKEA store, the way they lay out their stores, the ability to look through all their range in products is very helpful, especially when you take into account all of their appliances, which are also on display. And talking of appliances, the range and quality is fine for the price point in my experience. Plus, their customer service around faults and returns is excellent. I can't say the same for other suppliers who seem to want to make the whole thing a mystery. I don't know, presumably to spend an hour with their sales design person who will help you buy a few things, as I said, you never realised you needed. Now, the importance of levelling a kitchen and the setting out that has to be done before you start anything else is the bit that DIY self-builders always underestimate. Setting up using laser lines or chalk lines, then wedges to get the base cabinets plumb and level, knowing whether to set out from the highest or the lowest point and how to find that, versus the IKEA rail system geared up for the novice, which you just fix level to your wall and off you go. It's just much easier to get your head around such a rail thing, combined with the units and adjustable carcass and legs, if you're not used to setting out these things. Now, whether I use their online software to generate my estimate, like I'm doing here for this condo renovation I completed, and I'll leave a link for that here, or whether I've just picked up the list myself using my own 3D model and Excel spreadsheet that I've created a bit like this one, or I've just booked an appointment and spent an hour with one of the designers preparing the quote. What you get at the end is an extremely detailed and clear quotation with each of the cabinets estimated right down to the fixings, hinges and ironmongery and all the accessories we always forget to remember in our shopping lists. And that is brilliant for transparency of pricing. I'm able to pick and choose whether I'll leave that bit out for now, and if I want it later, I can always buy it as a separate piece. And I've been working with all the major manufacturers over the years, and in my experience, IKEA are the only ones that provide that level of transparency on our quotations. Next is delivery date, and it drives me crazy that kitchen suppliers will give you a date that is never set in stone. Some won't even give you a date till weeks later. And the kitchen is such an important item in your build or refurbishment project, and it can cost you a lot of money and a lot of time if the day that is given to you initially isn't kept by the supplier. IKEA will give me a delivery date weeks in advance at the point of purchase, and they will keep to it, and I just need this for my planning. So okay, let's get into why folks don't like IKEA. And first reason I hear all the time is there's no space behind the units for services. And what they mean is if your sink is here and your drain pipe is here, it's much harder to run a horizontal branch. It's not a big deal to make this work, but on the other hand, come on IKEA, make it easy for everyone. It's only 40mm off the depth, and here I've had to butcher the side of the carcass to get the dishwasher and washing machine waste and supply pipes through to connect into the drain. And that sort of thing makes me sick. It's horrible. The flat pack is the next thing, and it has to be said, it is also a pain. If you're paying your joiner several £100s a day, it really is a joke to expect him to do such a simple task. But if you're watching this, you may well be installing it yourself for your own project, so it doesn't matter so much anyway. And as an aside, the amount of cardboard is frightening. I just don't know why they can't figure out another way of transporting the flat packs economically. IKEA only make worktops in a maximum length of 2.4 metre, and what they suggest for anything longer is to joint the worktops together like I had to do here using silicone. For 90-degree joints, sure, you'll have to use jigs and biscuits, but IKEA's suggestion for a long straight run is just a horrible detail in a kitchen where the grime will collect over time. And still on worktops, although they do make a range of quartz worktops for the fancier kitchens, it is a total nightmare to get them ordered, since, in my opinion, since IKEA don't actually manufacture them, and instead you've got to go through a third-party supplier organised with IKEA, and therefore you're ending up dealing with two different supply chains and timings, and that is no fun when you're trying to deal with the logistics of a building project. And although I started off by saying IKEA Kitchens are competitively priced, the custom priced worktops certainly are not. So unless you're going for a laminated standard worktop supplied by IKEA, I'll always go for my custom worktops from a separate supplier. Or if I want a length of worktop longer than the standard 2.4 metres, again I'll go to a different supplier like I did here. It's also true that if you're not careful, you can end up with the same kitchen look as everyone else in your street if you go for IKEA worktops. Actually, I think it's a bit of a cliche. Like all manufacturers, IKEA have a few gimmicky ranges which stand out and which you should avoid, but the majority of options are plain, simple and classic in their design, and if you're careful about your worktop choices and your trims, your handles and your skirtings, you'll definitely end up with something unique to you and your home. Now, in the first part of this video, when I was going through the pros, I said the quality was fine. Now, I'm just a random guy on YouTube, and it's definitely true that there are lots of people who are just as credible as I hope I am, and they say the opposite of me, and they don't like the quality of IKEA. In my experience, I don't really see the difference, but it is fair to say the super top quality kitchen ranges are made from superior carcassing materials, sometimes 25mm thick as opposed to the 18mm thick particle board. Instead of laminate melamine, they'll use better veneer for the carcassing. But we're talking value for money for our self-build project, not £10,000 for a single kitchen splashback alone. And I can't see there is any difference between IKEA carcasses and the other low to mid-range manufacturers from companies like Howdens, B&Q, Magnet, Wickes and Wren. Anyway, that's my thoughts on IKEA. If you enjoyed this video, hit me a thumbs up, and thanks a lot for watching.